Okay. Right, Maui, what is your bad point?
Mine is we have to talk about Liquid until they basically get a new team. We just have to keep talking about them every single time. And I feel like the bad part throughout all of this is that the people that are leaving it, that there's such a huge hit to their reputations. I'm mostly focusing here on cadiaN and Zeus because I do think that even though I've had my qualms and doubts with certain parts of this Liquid roster, I do feel like cadiaN, for example, is still an incredibly valuable player for a lot of teams, and he could fit in on a couple teams in the top 30. But as it stands, with the whole Stabby incident, with the way that Liquid fell apart, I feel like people are looking at cadiaN as, say, the problem, but I don't think that he's necessarily a problem. I just don't always think he's the best fit. And so when I think of where cadiaN can end up now, it unfortunately just feels like it's going to be somewhere that's probably beneath his abilities. Like he's going to have to build up a roster once again that is probably like cadiaN should be really competing for top 10s. He should be fighting into semifinals most of the time, and I don't really see a landing spot for him. And that's not all because of his teammates and the fact that they bounced on him, but it's also due to the fact that him as an individual probably was focusing so much more on the T sides and trying to put things together that his own individual form never was up to speed. So he took a huge hit, and that's probably also really hurt his reputation. On the other hand, I also think that Zeus's reputation through this has, for me, it's actually taken a huge dive. I'm almost speaking from personal bias and my own personal opinion here. I feel like Zeus's reputation, despite the fact that in like every interview he says all the right things, I'm almost now, this is weird, but I'm almost wary now of competitors that are saying all the right things in interviews. If it sounds like, oh, that makes sense, that's logical, that all makes sense, because then I almost feel like it's just so rehearsed at that point that
Right.
they can kind of blow smoke into anybody's ear and get any job that they want in this space, as opposed to showing pure hard results. And so nowadays I think I like people that are maybe not revealing too much, or like a little grittier, I guess, like for example, we were talking about Imapet earlier. Like that dude doesn't really have the charisma in an interview necessarily, but I know from the little details of what he's actually providing that he's doing an awful lot. But now when it comes to Zeus, I feel like in like the meta aspect of describing what he's working on with a team, I'm always like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like every time I've talked to Zeus, I'm always like, that totally makes sense. Like you should be doing that. But then like results for now, Liquid and Fluxo, and the fact that he seemed to be a big proponent for them picking up Skulls, it's like it's just a series of bad coaching stints, and also it's a very bad choice on his end to pick up Skulls. And I outlined the reasons why that was never really a strong pickup in my opinion on my own YouTube video. So I just feel like I don't really know where he's going to be going, and I've kind of floated the idea of Furia because maybe it's a reuniting with Fallen, and maybe they can run something back there. But I'm not really sure where he's going either. And I also think like he wasn't the coach for Liquid, but I also don't think he should fall too much further down than Furia. Like Furia would be a great landing spot for him in my opinion, but I don't, if I see him on like say the 7th best Brazilian team, I'm gonna feel kind of bad. Like that's well beneath his talents too. And I just feel like both cadiaN and Zeus from this whole breakup, they're gonna end up places that are like well beneath what they should be. They probably weren't obviously the fits for Liquid, but to go beneath the top 20, which is very possible for both of these players, or coach and player, I just feel like is a disservice to both of them.
But it's not a good sign, man, to you weren't even aware Zeus was coaching Liquid for this question. So what do you think?
No, like I just want to say, like not necessarily Zeus, but like the whole cadiaN thing. As soon as he joined Liquid, I thought it's gonna be like super hard for him to make it work, because like just in general, I think international teams are already super hard to make work. Doesn't matter like how many
Sure.
psychologists you go through, how many times team bonding exercises you do in the forest. Like it's not gonna help, you know. cadiaN came from like a culture, like the Danish culture of like he had a heroic team of soldiers, right? Of players that
Yes.
just like no one can as a role, like everyone's dying for each other, everyone's sacrificing, everyone wants to win, into this kind of Liquid where it's just not like that, right? And you could tell like cadiaN wasn't comfortable. You could tell like the way he was playing some of the games I was watching, like from his face, right, that he was not comfortable playing. There was like pressure on him. And yeah, once you're not confident playing like CS, it's just gonna fall apart. And I feel like in Liquid, everything started falling apart, like individually and as a team. No one just maybe like believed in how cadiaN like wanted to cool. And again, like if there's no cohesion, no one's trusting like your IGL, the roster's gonna fall apart. And I feel like for cadiaN, going to a Danish team, is there a Danish team for him to join? Because I haven't checked anything yet, but
like a Sashi, I don't even know.
Who else is there? Yeah, it has to be one. Has to be that sort of the tier 2 people, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but like for him to join an international team, I think it's going to be hard for him. It's going to be really, really hard for him.
Right, I'll just say on this one.
Yeah.
No, go on. If you had more points,
I just want to say also like the twist and the whole like IGL situation. I really don't want them to IGL. I really want them to just play the role. Please get a normal IGL, right? And yeah, that's it. Then the whole situation of schools joining also for me was like, why, right? Like, and I knew not because of the skill, but because of like this whole culture dynamic of the team, which just would not mesh together. And it's just gonna go like off the rails quickly.
In a few months, I will drop a bunch of gems that will answer some of these questions, like the whole skulls thing. I've got some info I can give you. I won't do it now. I have to like keep it safe until the right time, blah, blah, blah. Statute of limitations, all that jazz. But on the cadiaN one, I'll actually go harder than you, Maui. Based on the things I've heard, it is partly cadiaN's fault. And he is going to be in a lot of trouble in his career right now, mate, because here's the problem. He already would be in a bad spot if people heard some of the things I've heard. But then when you combine it with the stabby situation in Heroic, that is a really hard out, because basically now the perception of cadiaN is going to be like this. Just as an IGL alone, the irony is he actually now has the rep that people unfairly gave Alexi. So people did that thing of like, all Alexi B does is like, it has to be like him calling and he's in the fragging spot and he's like micromanages everyone and you're just a pawn and you have no agency. That wasn't even true. Like that was true like on Mantu's team because they were all inexperienced. Like some of them had never played at that level, never done, then some of them never been in like a full international team even. Like at that point, maybe he had a bit more control. And by the way, that was mainly online as well. When you come to some of the other teams, I've been and talked to people in OG and other squads, like the other lineups they had and G2, and they've told me that like it's more like he does it on a personnel basis, Alexi. If he has people who have it, like if he has Nico, that of course they have agency. Of course he doesn't like micro them, etc. And over the years, he like expanded out his style. He doesn't just do one approach to the game. The difference is, I have heard about cadiaN, dude, the whole like main character thing, Maui, is real. Like, he is calling for himself. He does want to be the guy who makes every call. He is the guy who will say, fuck the playbook, I'm coming up with some genius call now, like in a movie, but he's doing it over and over. He's doing it match after match. Like, that in a movie, you'd only do one scene where you do that. You wouldn't have the guy do a hero call every time. That's why I always used to make fun of that angle where people, it's ironic in Team Liquid it hasn't worked, because everyone loved all those videos in Heroic of all the speeches and all the fucking things. Like, that's for the cameras, guys. Like, that shit, every now and then that might hit you if someone does the right speech. It doesn't work if you do it every game. It doesn't matter before every big match. Guys, you know, when I was 17, I went to a... No one gives a shit, mate. Like, Ed, the one time you told me at the major, you know, we're about to play a Blast Banana Cup semi-final, you fucking dickhead. I don't know. It's not life and death, is it? Like, oh my God. It's not like Interstellar, like, all epic music as you go. It's just a fucking match. You know? It's like that big a game. So that aspect, a lot of the upside, I do think, sadly, was a bit overrated. But here's what's sad. I do still think he's a great caller. I do think if he has the right team of people who buy in, which Liquid, by the way, clearly was not. And here's the reason why the Liquid situation is dodgy. Because I've heard some of the players that maybe don't like him also were the ones that asked for him. Well, what do you want to do if you're the coach and the org at that point? Like, that's the thing about pro players that is so fucking entitled. These little rats privately will be like, get me this guy. You get him, and then when they lose, they go, why is he here? It's like, well, I don't fucking know. Maybe some dickhead told me to get him. Crazy, isn't it? I notice they never take any responsibility. And then I agree with you. Like, one, I hate the idea Twist is the IGL. He's the best player right now in career form again, so you're going to tank that. And then even worse, I already know why you're the IGL, bro. Because, you know, like that famous thing from cartoons back in the day, man, too, where on one shoulder you got the little devil and you got the little angel. He's only got your Kindar. There's nobody on the other one. And your Kindar's going, do it, bro. Become an IGL, become the RP, the rifle IGL. You can still, listen, it didn't work for me, but it'll work for you and I'll be your secondary call. That's like, oh, they must be thick as thieves, those rats. So anyway, sadly, I do think cadiaN's fucked himself, because what I just told you about the actual, like, approach, Combine all the factors that you could read negatively. One, he has to simultaneously be IGL and AWP, right? You've already narrowed the teams to about 2 in the entire top 20 would even consider you. 2, like, he's only made it work in a Danish team. That's a bad sign. Everyone's a European international team right now. And then thirdly, this is inferred that you not only are incredibly controlling, but 2 different groups of players didn't like your attitude. Bro, you're dead. It's over for you. You know, I joked on past episodes, welcome like Fnatic cadiaN. Maui, from what I'm hearing, it won't even be at that level, bro. Like, at this point, that would be like a deal he should like snap take, like snap call in poker. Like, from what I'm hearing, the joke is like, you'll be fucking playing against him soon, man. Too. That's BM, but whatever. That's who I am. So, listen, that's who I am, bro. It's who I am. So it's all good. That's just who I am.
It's all good, all good.
So anyway, I agree. On the Zeus one, look, I'm incredibly biased because I actually consider him a personal friend. So obviously I can still see a world where he'd be good, blah, blah, blah. I'll just say this. I think the reason why he is actually toast right now, Maui, is this. Because his problem as well is he's not at the beginning of his career. He's not in the position where like, I just want another gig and I'll prove it. No. His problem is because he's been to the absolute top of the game. And if people don't know, in real life, he had some very serious health things. He had an actual heart attack. He had like fucking a bunch of things done with his health where he had to lose weight. In his position, you can only take a gig now if it's a really big one. So I think his problem is I just don't think the big gig is there. And as you say, the obvious one that could be there is maybe Furia. But I'll just put it this way. Since he's a friend of mine, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. The things I've heard about that hog, mate. You know what? He doesn't deserve to go to prison, Maui. You know, he's fucked up, but give him probation at least. Let him, like, again, can't he go to Fnatic with cadiaN? Can't we all just go to Fnatic? Basically, anyone who's not getting any good spot, can Fnatic just take him? Can we just make a team with all his players? You know, I don't know. Well, with you, I agree. The overall point that was bad, which is their stock is fucked, is 100%. Like, I think, sadly, I'm with you. The obvious move you do here is like a lateral move. Like maybe there's a similar project. You go, that's not going to happen. These guys are just going to drop through the floor. And quite frankly, unless both of them are willing to... Also, remember that as well. cadiaN's played a long time. Is he going to grind his way back up from tier 2.5? That's a hard slog, mate, to go down like that again and come back. I can tell you, people who are friends of mine as well, like MSL, sometimes you never make it back. You just go into that world. Think about your first point, man, too. You go into that tier 2 world, and you think, because you've been at these lands, you know, mixing up, player, you think you're just going to be straight back, mate. You'll find out very quickly some of those names we just said, they'll just fucking clap you in the first 2 weeks, mate. You'll be like, fuck, I have to grind to get to tier 2. Like, fucking hell, and that is CS now. I'm with you. It's in a tough spot.
Also, do you have the fight that you had back then, right?
Yes.
That's like, you have to go through all of that again.
Yes.
And are you willing to go through all of that again? And a lot of teams, especially like, I mean, not teams, but like players where Nexa, for example, like he thought he could go from IGL to the player which he was before, G2 back in the day. It's a hard task. Like, it's super hard. And we could even see it right there. He just wasn't the right fit for G2.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, the joke is almost every great player that went to IGL never came back as a great player again. Shocks. You can name a million of them, mate. Loads of them, yeah. Right, okay. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.